Hey guys, and welcome back to Q&A with the side of Minecraft. This will be our first actual proper Q&A question video. And to start things off, what I want to do is actually do a lightning round, because I have a bunch of shorter questions. Well, I have a lot of questions in general sort of stacked up. But some of them are the kind of shorter ones that I could... Let's mark this out, by the way, so I can see this more easily from a distance. I have a fair number of questions that wouldn't really warrant their entire video, or more than a few minutes of discussion probably, but I figured I'd just burn through some of these. These are a mixture of questions that are from, wow, any of the times I've asked for questions, really. Some of these might be well over a year old, some of them are probably from a few weeks ago. I haven't actually sorted them by date, I just have them by name, and I'm just going to go ahead and burn through these while I do this. So, oh, armor slot, that's new. Sorry, I haven't played this game in like a year, probably, maybe two? So some elements are going to be kind of new to me. First question is from BallotBoxer. Are there any lost series, as in a game you found to be so unlikable or a disappointment that led you to not edit and upload it? A fair number of lost series. Oftentimes when a series is lost, it's actually not necessarily entirely the game's fault, but actually sort of the circumstances in which we recorded it in the first place. There's a relatively high chance that a quote-unquote lost series, or I'm gonna quantify a lost series as just being anything that I have recorded but never actually let you guys see, as in like I never uploaded it and stuff. Because sometimes the extent to which I was really planning on it being a series is up in the air a little bit, and sometimes I was recording it for the sake of it and then chose not to use it or whatever. But very, very oftentimes the reason why a series is lost and so on is usually because the game itself seemed to get kind of uninteresting. I just fell in this hole. I'm gonna die now. Don't mind me. Oftentimes the game itself feels kind of uninteresting, or I quickly realize it's not quite what I thought it was. Other times, it's often because I was doing it in a multiplayer context and quickly became aware of the fact that this session was not going to work out. Multiplayer's all over the place. The one person I can pretty reliably do a show with is Wanderbot, probably. I'm just gonna make a ton of furnaces, screw it. I can pretty reliably make a show with Wanderbot. He's dependable, will very frequently be able to get back together on a regular basis, and it's not really much of a big deal to proceed. But a lot of the time, there's people that I'll never see again after the first session, because they're just unreliable, even if they say they're gonna stick around the whole time. And sometimes just the dynamic is off for various reasons. And so, like, there's been a few cases, such as, at some point I recorded with, I think it was with TLA on the internet and Wanderbot, we recorded Terraria for a few hours. And we were just kind of shooting the shit for the most part, and just doing whatever we felt like. And it didn't really amount to much, and ultimately just went nowhere, unfortunately. By the way, I'm burning stone because I want to be able to make stuff out of smooth stone at some point. I like the idea of doing that. Ultimately, stuff just didn't go anywhere because we just either never met up again to make more, so I ultimately just didn't edit any of it, or the dynamic's off and people are interacting weird. Sometimes I just think that something's not going to be a good experience. Sometimes it's because the game is so weird or specific in its mechanics that, like, sometimes it's just you have to be really into it to figure out how to play it properly, and the experience of going in blind, the way I often do, leads to a situation where I'm just sort of floundering around embarrassingly and nothing's really getting done. Sometimes I'm just dying right away. So, like, I've tried playing a long time ago with TLE on the internet and Wanderbot. We played Magicite, and more recently I played Vagante with Wanderbot and Birdcatcher games, and in both cases I was being introduced to this game that has very minimalist 2D graphics, and you pick a class and you move left to right more or less and navigate this two-dimensional world and try not to die, because if you die, you die permanently, and in both games you have very, very few hit points overall, so dying very quickly is actually super easy. And you have, because you're these tiny little sprite creatures that it seems like you're only like 8 pixels tall. Your little puny melee attacks cover like a super tiny amount of range a lot of the times, and it's just, I found them to be like a struggle to play, because I would try to make my little swings at people and I'm like, I'm not quite connecting, but then like the enemies have all these aggressive attacks and they can obliterate you so quickly, and it just didn't have the right game feel for me, I guess. Like a game like Castlevania, you have, like, your character is this tall on the screen, they take a nice healthy amount of screen space up, and they have a decent little movement speed, and you swing your sword and it goes out like roughly like 2/3 of the character's height in length, possibly, as you do that quick little sword jab outward, and you have a really good sense of like the range of your attack, and you can lure enemies into your range and carefully move around their attacks. I'm not a fan of these recent indie games that have super tiny characters that they give you, and because you can't tell if you're gonna... At halftime, I feel like I can't tell if I'm actually gonna land hits on people, and it's frustrating. Oh, I don't need stone anymore. I just started smelting copper finally. It's very frustrating to me when I can't tell if I'm gonna hit somebody in a game. And it's not always the game's fault. Sometimes it's my own personal response to it. But the end result is that we play for a little while. I die over and over again in really ineffective ways where I'm just not really getting anything done, and like I just don't end up having like any video content to show people at the end of the day, because it's just like, hey, look, it's a video where I fell over and died, and then my co-op partners are playing basically without me for a while because they're still alive, but I'm not, and it's just not a cool experience overall. And that's always a bummer. So when I played both of those games, in both cases, I ultimately just scrapped the footage. I think I still have my Fugante video. I might even have both videos technically somewhere in a folder, but I'll probably never show it to anyone just because it's just bad content. It's only my perspective, and the video was just me. I run around a little bit, I get knocked over, I die permanently. Then in many cases, the other players run around off camera and have a fun adventure or something while I'm staring at the screen and questioning how I spent my time today, and that's a bummer. And I'm totally cool with being honest with people about a game when I think a game is bad. Like when we sat down with Dungeon and Robots, I thought the game was absolutely garbage, and I had no problem saying that in the video. And it earned some dislikes for that reason, because people don't like feedback sometimes. And I looked at the same video on Wander's channel, and someone was complaining about me trashing the game instead of just playing it or whatever the hell. But like I think the feedback's important because it affects whether or not people are gonna buy that game potentially, because they look up videos like that to find out about the game, and I think it's important to be honest with them about how you feel about it, so that they don't stumble into a bad experience. Because sometimes games look fun when they aren't, because they can be flashy or pleasing to the eye. That game wasn't that either. It didn't have much going for it, honestly. But I wanted to be honest with people because that's what I do. And also, I think Wander is way too easily pleased by indie games, or he puts on a face of being overly positive at times, potentially, because he just doesn't want to ruffle feathers, I think. And it might be because he wants to have contacts within the indie dev community or something, potentially, and maybe he's worried about burning bridges by being overly rude, because to be fair, he has a fair amount of contacts already compared to what I do. But I like honesty in those cases, and it's rough to do that about someone's project they worked on, but sometimes I think it's deserved, and I thought that game was hot garbage. Because there's nothing disappointing like when a game like Moon Hunters or Robot Dungeon game, Dungeons and Robots, ultimately just doesn't accomplish the primary task it set out to do. Because if it says this game is about this, and then it fails at that thing that was the specific thing the whole product was for, then you gotta wonder, like, what was the point? Like in Moon Hunter's case, the problem was that when you play multiplayer, it just completely fails to keep track of your story, and the whole point of the game is that you craft your own little stories. So it's like, well, this game doesn't work, basically. That's a bummer. But I'm getting so many layers off topic at this point, to the point where I'm having trouble keeping track of where I was. But is that a monkey sound? What the fuck? I'm sorry, what? Is that a witch? I've never heard that voice before. Die, 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 die. I'm just swinging away right now, and I can't even see my weapon. I think it's off camera. Yeah, I gotta apologize. I've lost my train of thought in a pretty bad way, actually. But I'm sure we'll get back to it sooner or later. But the topic was when we have lost series, and I went on a ramble for a while. But yeah, a lot of times we lose playthroughs because the oh god, that's a skeleton. There's something else over here too. Oh, that's a creeper. Oh, there's a few. Okay, there's a few things to be worried about here. What was that laugh? Yeah, I don't know what that laugh is. I'm not too worried about dying because we're really close to the spawn, so I'm not too concerned right now. Wow, I broke my brain processing that topic a little bit. But yeah, the multiplayer is totally a thing where the session just goes poorly. Maybe it's bad chemistry between the people involved. Sometimes it's just I'm out of my element because sometimes people ask me to play a game with them and then I agree and then they either fail to explain how the game works to me or it doesn't click for me and I'm just sitting there being a stick in the mud the entire playthrough and it doesn't work out. That's a bummer, but it happens. Damn it, that sucks. My tools are down there. I need to get a little dirt so I can actually create steps for myself so I can get back out. But the other thing that happens is when a game feels like it's not conducive to content at all. I thought this was going to be a lightning round, but here I am talking for a really long time about this topic, I guess. Maybe nothing's ever going to be a lightning round. Maybe I can never be brief about anything. Because I ramble, and I insist on expanding topics out into a wider range than I think it's going to be. Yeah, it'll be a lightning round. It's only 2 hours long. Only a 2-hour answer to this question. Quick answers, whoa! But, sometimes a game just does not work for me. And a big example of just a solo playthrough that didn't work out for me. One of them was Tales from the Borderlands. I originally tried playing it completely on my own. I eventually just gave up and went and did it on Sad Games with Andrew for a few episodes, but then we lost footage, so that went away, and after a few episodes, unfortunately. But I did it with him because it's easy to talk back and forth with someone in a context where you're on a channel where you kind of talk over dialogue and don't give a shit a lot of the time and just are screwing around. But on my channel, on this channel, I largely don't talk over dialogue, and I edit the audio carefully and all these other things. So being presented with a game that basically never stops talking, especially at a time where I wasn't really ready for some of that stuff at the time, it destroyed any flow I had of any kind when I realized that like the game was just going to keep talking forever. I did the long intro scene where the important characters are all meeting each other. God damn it. And setting up the premise of the episode, and I couldn't do it. I like there was no opening to speak, and I'm like I could. It was I was caught off guard by just how much little room there was to talk, because I felt like there was a lot more breathing room when I originally played Walking Dead, which I did do a Let's Play of at one point on Sad Games back when solo stuff used to go there too, because I didn't have my own channel. Oh crap, water! Don't screw me here, dick. But like I felt like Walking Dead actually had a decent amount of breathing room because you're often walking around in environments doing an adventure game. But more recent Telltale games are practically not adventure games. They're basically like interactive cutscenes, so doing commentary over a game that's constantly talking is seemingly impossible sometimes, but I might figure it out one day. Get down there. Did I beat him? Nope, I didn't. Good episode. So I gave up on Tales from the Borderlands after about 10 minutes, because I just was not feeling it, even though I went on to do King's Quest, but yeah, even that's an example of a game where you get more time to actually talk about things, because you will walk around an environment and look for the solution to a puzzle. One of the other ones that I canceled purely based on gameplay was Ether 1, which more recently some people have been recommending me that I play because of The Witness and stuff like that, but that game is some kind of weird open world puzzle thing. The problem for me was the exploration. It's like an exploration puzzle game, but I didn't. After a few minutes, exploration went from being interesting to kind of a chore for me, because it was just a big empty world with nothing going on. Like, here's more buildings and here's more little details, and you might get like a tiny hint of story here and there, but by and large there just wasn't, like, the world didn't feel like it mattered in many ways, and there wasn't a story, and it was just kind of a bummer to me, which would have been fine if the puzzles were intriguing the way that they are in The Witness, because obviously The Witness doesn't have much of a story most of the time, and you kind of have to infer any story that you think there is. But the problem is that game didn't really have intriguing puzzles. In fact, it was like it even might have had interesting puzzles that I couldn't find, because the game was just a big area you'd roam around, and it was full of clutter, just so much clutter. More boxes here, dead end here. Here's another room with some stuff to look at, I guess, and like just trying to find what in the environment you could interact with in that game, and what the goal was, and what the puzzles were, or what you were trying to do in any context was actually really hard to do. At least in my initial impression of the game. Oh god, I'm sure that's what's making the sound. No, 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 no. Get out of here. Pickaxe time. Oh god, oh god. I'm being attacked by little children now. Okay, that's creepy as fuck, actually. Ah. Oh my god, I'm gonna die here. Alright, there it goes. But yeah, the game was so aimless, and it was problematic because I couldn't... Like, I just found myself, like, I'm trying to make an episode out of this, and I'm not sure what to show. Like, how much of me wandering around aimlessly do I show? And then after, like, a half an hour or so, I just, like, I didn't have things to do, basically. Like, I was looking around, and I'm like, where's the puzzle? Where's the thing? What is the structure of this game? What am I trying to accomplish? And it felt aimless for a while. And then there was just a few things that destroyed my opinion of the game in various ways. Because it was... Oh, maybe the creeper... Maybe that thing's laughing at me, I don't know. But, what happened is that the game had... How do I put this? Ow, are they back? Crap. Oh no. Well, shit, there goes all my stuff. This turned into a surprisingly action-packed episode that's really screwing with my ability to commentate in a way that I didn't... The game mostly won't be, because I usually get my resources and then kind of wander around, but I don't have basic armor or weapons set up quite yet. I should have, because I had all that iron, but I didn't do anything with it yet. But the game was so aimless I couldn't do anything content-wise, and it was just really frustrating. And a few things killed my opinion of the game, because it has a little sign-in sheet in the lobby that you start out in, and you're supposed to write down your name. And this was a console port of a game that had been on PC for a little while at that point, and it was such a slapdash attempt at porting that you would go to this freaking place to type in your name, and it would show up like a keyboard on the screen, and the keyboard wouldn't highlight where your cursor was. So you had to try to infer which letter you were highlighting by hitting yes on the letter and then hitting erase to delete your letter, and then being like, okay, if I go right 3 and down 2 from there, I'll get to the letter I want to be on, and do that to spell out your name. And it's probably ultimately pointless, because I think I don't know if the sign-in sheet actually affects anything, but it was just like a little thing of like, wow, that little detail is just garbage. Then at one point I did like really early on, I was doing a transition from one location to another, and the game crashed completely. And I had to start it over from scratch because it hadn't saved it all. And I'm like, I'm just going to do something else with my life now. And so right around, this was right when Ether 1 was coming out on PS4, and I ultimately just decided to not spend my time that way. And that's the way that a playthrough will often die, is just kind of with a whimper. We try to start it, and something doesn't work out one way or another, and then we move on. Recently, we tried to play The Division. I purchased The Division, and so did Wanderbot, and we were going to play it together. And then on his computer, for some reason, even though his computer's relatively new, and there's no reason it should be that dysfunctional, every time he tried to play The Division, it would max out his CPU, and so he could barely make the game work, and he couldn't record anything. And, well, he was my co-op partner for the series, because I don't want to play The Division alone. It's a game where you run around and shoot people to make numbers go up, and like it's kind of a boring premise for just playing a game. It's not the most exciting premise in my head. So like when I think about that game, I think of like I totally want to play it with a friend, because that's what it's designed to do. It's a multiplayer game. Everything's supposed to be co-op based in it. So when it didn't work for him properly, we canceled the series after like an hour of technical support, which some of you guys saw in live stream form, because we were in the middle of a live stream when I was trying to fix all this. I eventually just gave up, and we didn't do the series, and I just canceled it. And I should probably make a box for this stuff. I got a refund for the game on Steam, which they were nice and prompt about. Steam's really good about giving you your money back within a few hours, usually, which has been my experience so far. And series canceled. And that's the whole topic. And I've been rambling aimlessly for a while now. But yeah, that's really all it comes down to. I've given some examples, and the Lost series aren't very interesting. A lot of time, there's a few other technical ones I can get into, I guess, like how I tried to do a Bloodborne co-op series with Wanderbot, but we were just a little too inconsistent at doing the show, so it never quite came out at all. We have a little footage, but frankly now, like, if we were to play it now, our skill levels are so different from how they were at that time that it would be really weird to show that footage and then cut forward to the more recent footage. So like if we ever do that series for real, we'll just probably start over. We made it up to Blood-Starved Beast, I believe. And there's a bunch of footage of me getting obliterated by the Blood-Starved Beast, which is very non-characteristic of me at this point, after considering how many times I've fought that guy now. And it's just there's production things that happen. One of the things that people don't quite realize about Let's Plays is how technical this shit is, and how much just nonsense technical problems can ruin your day or drain hours of time away. And a lot of those cases have been especially happening when you play multiplayer in some context. Where can you use smooth stone for? No, you can't. That's fine. I'm spacing a little bit now, and it's a problem. People don't realize how technical this stuff and how much time you can lose, and the moment you play multiplayer, way more stuff goes wrong, just because of how complicated multiplayer is in a lot of games, especially if you're doing indie games where multiplayer often is barely functional to begin with. And so you can just lose hours of time to that, and sometimes it's just not ultimately the game's fault entirely. Weird, random technical problems happen on people's PCs, or other times, just something's not quite working right on the internet or something, and you just move on with your life sooner or later, and that series is canceled, and you just do other things with your time. There's that witch that's been laughing at me. Been wondering about that. Alright, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it off here, guys. I think I've just been rambling for a while. I actually don't know how long this episode is, and I'm a little worried in some ways. Did I just loop back around to... Oh, this is just another place I was digging earlier. I think the surprisingly heavy amount of action that happened this episode fucked with my brain a little bit. I've just straight up lost that stuff at this point. I'm not going to be able to get down there and back in any efficient way. That witch is throwing bottles at me. That's just rude. That's fine. I can get some copper. I can get copper back anyway. Thanks for watching, like always, guys. Maybe next episode there actually will be a lightning round. I accidentally stumbled into a question that I apparently just thought I should just keep talking about. See you guys next time.